Reese's. I'm on to something. Reese's.
Bobby, did we get that shipment of mesquite?
Jim's woodworking shop worked fine
Good fit on those Japanese corners.
until half his staff retired.
Wow, those cuts are neat. I'm really going to miss your precision.
He needs 4 skilled woodworker bees ASAP.
All right, this jigsaw needs a new blade.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Our hiring platform instantly connects you with quality candidates, and you can schedule and conduct virtual interviews right from the Indeed dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
The Dave Ramsey Show, weekdays from 1 to 4.
WGNS, your good neighbor station.
Rutherford County's place to talk. The Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and online at WGNSradio.com. This is the Roundtable. A look at the news, views, politics, and people that are shaping Rutherford County.
Good morning. This is Bill Krause on the WGNS Roundtable, having conversations with wonderful people throughout Rutherford County, people who are in government, people who are in the social services, people who are just everyday people who love, work, and live in this community. This morning, we are indeed so fortunate to have with us 2 ladies who are highly dedicated ladies to the mental health situation in our community, in our county, and so forth. And I would like to welcome Susan Phillips, who is the Senior Director of Community Outreach, and Haley McPherson, who's the Center Director for our Murfreesboro and Smyrna offices. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
I always like to first find out about where everybody's from, where you were born, schooled, anything exciting about you. Haley, I sure hope you tell one particular story, because I think it's a fascinating story. And Brian, you're going to enjoy this particular story.
Oh, yeah.
But Susan, tell us a little bit about Susan.
Absolutely. So my name is Susan Phillips. I am originally from Carthage, Tennessee. So I am a Middle Tennessee native. I currently have been with Volunteer Behavioral Health, which is the company I work for 31 years.
Wow, that's a long
as
stand.
a social worker,
Yes.
you know, and underneath everything, I'm a social worker, but I get to work in mental health and substance abuse.
And there's
to
no,
help
and you
people.
don't even have a burnout, which one would think
No.
there'd be a burnout
Well,
after 3 decades.
Right. So the way I prevent burnout is I have a wonderful husband. His name's Greg.
Okay.
And I sing in a gospel choir.
Would you like to sing something right now?
I would not.
No.
I'm a choir singer.
All
I'm
right.
a choir singer, not a soloist.
Well, I won't join you because I am not good at singing.
But and I enjoy time with my family, my friends, things like that. So those type things keep me motivated. It keeps me going. And just knowing that people need a voice. There are so many people out there that feel unheard, unseen, isolated, and they just need someone to recognize who they are and let them know that they are worth being here and that they have hope.
And they want to be listened to.
And they want to be listened to, yes, sir.
And Haley, tell us about Haley and especially a particular event.
I will tell that story. My name is Haley McPherson Bush, and I've been with the company now about 5.5 years. I am originally from this area, Middle Tennessee, so Rutherford County. I graduated from Blackman High School, and mental health has always just been my thing. Since I started working in inpatient at 21, and I graduated from MTSU and with my degree in psychology and mental health, and began working as a case manager here with the company. And now I am a director of both the Smyrna and Murfreesboro offices. I do have 2 children, Tanner and Declan, and they are my world.
Understand. And you met your husband how?
So the way I met my husband is interesting. I
Yes,
was
it is.
actually So my oldest son, Tanner, he is my stepson, and I was his preschool teacher. And that is how I met my husband. But the story of my proposal is interesting. So 8.5 years ago, my best friend was taking me to breakfast, or what I thought was taking me to breakfast, and she kept turning up the radio louder and louder, and I heard someone talking about his girlfriend that he just really loved from 107.5, and turns out it was my boyfriend at the time, and he was proposing to me on air, and my best friend was actually driving me to the station instead of to breakfast, and yeah, so it was a very memorable proposal, and something that I share every year. So, and we've been married a little over 7 years now.
I said to Haley off
great.
the air, I said next July on her anniversary, she's going to have to come back and wish a happy anniversary to her hubby.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's talk about your organization. Let's talk about its mission. Let's talk about its many, many functions before we even talk about the whole field of mental illness, mental health prevention, etc.
So, volunteer behavioral health, we have been serving the needs of Rutherford County since the early 70s. 1972, I believe, is when we opened. And so most people will know us as the Guidance Center. But now we have formed with some other organizations, and so we're called Volunteer Behavioral Health. We cover 32 counties total. And just our mission is to serve individuals, families, and communities through prevention, treatment, and recovery services, ensuring that help today leads to a better tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And I just think that's beautiful.
Absolutely. And the addresses of the two centers are?
The Murfreesboro location is 1504 Williams Drive in Murfreesboro by St. Thomas Rutherford. And then the Smyrna location is 131 Mayfield Drive, next to Lancaster Christian Academy and near the post office. Yes.
Are those walk-in facilities?
You are more than welcome to walk in. Actually, one of the things that I really love about this agency is something that we do with our intake process, and that's different from every other agency that's in the state. We're the only one that does this, but you can actually call a phone number and get your intake done same day. So, and it's all by phone. You can walk in and get one done, or you can do it by phone. And the intake process is a psych evaluation, a care management visit, and a med visit. And so you don't have to wait 3 months for your first med appointment. You don't have to wait 3 months for your first therapy appointment, anything like that. So we really try to improve that access to care when we develop that model.
Let's talk about the various areas of mental health that you deal with, and it's quite a wide litany of events, from suicide prevention to domestic, I'm sure. What are some of the areas, some of the many areas that you touch upon?
So one of the things that we do with prevention, we do have some intervention programs for children and adolescents. We have counselors in the school system, but also with outpatient services. So we provide counseling services, as Haley said, medication management services if that's needed. And, medication is not our first go-to. So our first go-to is what's going on with the person? How can we help them best? If counseling only is the answer, that's what we go for. But we do know that there is a place for medication, that people may need that. And so if that's the case, we do provide those services as well. In addition to that, we have crisis services for adults. So if someone is at risk of harming themselves or someone else, if they don't feel safe with themselves, if they don't feel like they can keep themselves safe or keep another person safe with what's going on with them, we have a crisis service that we can deploy to come and meet with the person, talk to the person, to see what their needs are. And we make sure that we look at the least impactive need. So we have like a program in Cookeville at our location there, also Chattanooga, and we'll soon have one here in Murfreesboro. And it's a 24/7 walk-in center, so people can go there in the evenings, on the weekends if they need help. But there's also something called a crisis stabilization unit, and the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse have been so gracious to fund those programs for us. So if someone just needs to be around other people, they don't need to go inpatient for their safety. It's called a CSU, Crisis Stabilization Unit. They can go and stay there for 3 to 5 days just to be around other people. They'll have some medication management adjusted if needed. They'll have group sessions, individual sessions. So we try to make sure that we can help keep people safe in the community as much as possible. Then another program that we have, because we talked about prevention. So we've had some state funding, and now we are kind of doing this on our own. We work with the police departments in all of the areas that we serve, and we do training called CIT, Crisis Team Intervention. And so we're training officers for 40 hours a week around mental health and substance abuse crises, giving them just some more tools on their tool belt with how do you respond with somebody who's in a mental health crisis, a substance abuse crisis. And,
Are there telltale signs, as you were talking? First of all, I have to compliment your style. You're in a nice, calm way of speaking, which I imagine is extraordinarily effective in dealing with most people who may be angry, may be upset, may be totally in a complex environment, situation, and so forth.
Thank you.
But how do you see the early steps, or does it have to explode into a crisis before we can intervene?
I think it just all depends on the situation at the time. If there's a situation in which someone is, just really getting agitated and, you're not quite sure what is going on or what their trigger may be, just talking to them and identifying, okay, what kind of led you down this path to feel this way? And, being able to talk with them and just ask how they're doing, or, what is bothering you today? What is that trigger that you might have, to de-escalate a situation, and talking with them. And a lot of the times they just want someone who's going to listen to them and to not make them feel like they are crazy.
Well,
And
where
we
I
don't
want
like that
where I
word.
want to go with this, and as you describe in your observations, do we all have at a particular time or place in life dropping off the cliff in mental health? And can something trigger anybody? And, I'm thinking of a parent of a young child, and the young child may go through tantrums. And is a tantrum a natural behavior, or is a tantrum a step into a larger problem? And when does a parent, for example, begin to know, hey, there may be an issue, we better seek some outside help, or a tantrum is a normal behavior on the part of a particular child?
I think so, yes. I mean, tantrums are very normal. I mean, and
I don't know if
even
they're adult tantrums, but
well, I mean, even in adults, and I think, yes, it's true. We all have phases in our life where our mental health needs to have some attention, and we need to allow that to happen. We need to seek out reinforcements. Therapy is a great thing. A therapist is someone, hopefully we have a support system that we can go to when we need more help than usual. But a therapist is someone who can be impartial, because usually hopefully our friends want to support us and tell us everything that's good. A therapist can kind of point out things in our lives that we want to pay attention to and how to pay attention to those. In children, tantrums are normal. I mean, it's, the thing about parenting, I feel like, is being able to help a child know that, there are ways that we can get our frustrations out. We can show what our needs are. When it comes to a different level where they may need support, I would suggest looking at the circumstances that the child is living in. Has anything changed? Would anything be bothering them? And if it gets to a point to where the child cannot go like to daycare, if the child is doing things that are dangerous to other children, to themselves, then I would look at getting some kind of treatment. And if the parent is thinking, I really don't know how to help my child, definitely reach out if they feel like, because I think most parents have kind of like a natural, I know my child and I know my child doesn't usually act this way, then yes, definitely seek out support.
And one of the things I'm sure you address on a continual basis is things that cause stress. And what are the stressors, in a sense, is somebody who's commuting every day from Murfreesboro to downtown on I-24 and stop and start, to work, stop and start, going home. Are there stressors that may be traffic, stressors that may be a boss that you just do not like, stressors may be financial, stressors may be pending illness, stresses may be a problem with a aging parent, for example. Do you initially identify stressors at an early point before you intervene?
Absolutely. And it's like you said, stressors can come in all shapes and sizes, and, it's all dependent upon the person. What may be a stressor for me may not be a stressor for Susan. And so being able to identify those things that are what really affect you as the person individually could be the first step in treatment. Because stress, it not only has a mental effect on the body, but it also has an insane physical effect on the body as well. And, it causes things from headaches to lack of sleep, which also contribute to, mental health issues and things like that. So it's important to definitely identify whatever stressors that individual is experiencing right off the bat to develop a treatment plan.
It's kind of what you just said about sleep. Buy a new mattress. Get a good night's sleep. Some people are sleeping on 10, 15-year-old mattresses, and they wonder why they're not getting a good night's sleep, or just turn the mattress over once in a while in order to get a better night's sleep. So, so much of stress relief is really take a look at the core of the stress, and is it resolvable? It doesn't mean just quit your job because you don't like the people around you. It doesn't mean quit your job because you don't like the commute into Nashville. But you can identify some of the stresses, the way you manage your time. I will always say to students, are you a morning person or an evening person? If you're an evening person, don't take an early morning class. I will ask every student, would you rather be getting up at 3 in the morning or going to bed at 3 in the morning? And if you are talking about going to bed at 3 in the morning, don't take a 7 a.m. statistics class because it's going to be deadly for you. So, how do you manage your stress? Does mental health, from your perspective, also deal with people who are aging?
Absolutely. Actually, one of a high percentage, when we look at suicide rates, seniors are at very high risk of suicide. And we try to get that information out. And if you think about it, it's kind of a natural process. I know my grandmother, who I loved, she was just really wonderful and very outgoing. In her older ages, she would say sometimes the golden age isn't so golden. And so that kind of put that into perspective for me because I realized she was a very independent lady and she was losing the ability to drive.
Make decisions.
Make decisions. And then you do have, some people have more medical needs going on. Sometimes their friends are starting to pass away. Things just change.
Let's talk more about that in just a moment. We need to take a break right now, and we are with Susan Phillips, who is the Senior Director of Community Outreach of the Volunteer Behavioral Health, and we are with Haley McPherson, who is the Center Director of the Volunteer Behavioral Health facilities, both in Murfreesboro and in Smyrna. A lot to talk about, a lot of interest to all. We'll be right back.
It's happening now. The Tire World at Cost sale is going on all this week. Plus, save 20% off installation, and you can double dip with the manufacturer rebates. Jason Rather with Tire World.
Now through Saturday, we will be selling all tire brands with no markup. This is the biggest sale we have, so if you know you need tires, this is the time to do it.
Tire World with locations in Murfreesboro, Smyrna, and Laverne. Online at tireworld.us.
Tire World, we keep your family rolling.
Traditions of Smyrna invites you to their ribbon cutting and open house on Thursday, August 24th from 3 to 6.
I love being here.
Traditions is Smyrna's premier choice for independent living, assisted living, and memory care. Visit Traditions of Smyrna on August 24th and take advantage of their pre-leasing specials.
My grandmother loves Traditions.
On Great Circle, off of Rock Springs Road near Stonecrest Medical Center.
The food is so good at Traditions of Smyrna.
We're redesigning senior living. We're Traditions of Smyrna.
If you want to get some barbecue, I'll tell you how to do it. Head for the Slick Pig and you're into it. Just walk through the door at 1920 East Main and your nose will send a message right to your brain. Say, smells good. And barbecue. Slick Pig. We got ribs and beans. Got spicy wings. Slick Pig.
A Murfreesboro tradition. 1920 East Main. You know, there's a lot of people out there talking about testosterone. You hear about treatment centers everywhere. But do your homework and go to a provider that you can trust, one that's been doing it for years. I recommend Low T Center on Medical Center Parkway in Murfreesboro. That's where I get my levels checked. At Low T Center, they make it quick and easy. Walk in, take a simple blood test, and then with their on-site lab, you get the results in 25 minutes. If you've been feeling tired, grumpy, weight gain, or loss of muscle mass, these could all be signs of low testosterone levels. Low T Center is not like a typical doctor's office where you have to wait a long time to see the doctor. Low T Center is concierge medicine exclusively for men. They have affordable and convenient options, including physician-monitored self-inject treatments that ship directly to your home each month. No need to drive to the center for weekly visits. Right now at Low T Center, it's only $25 to get your testosterone level tested. So what are you waiting for? Go to lowtcenter.com to book your appointment online. That's lowtcenter.com. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
This is Good Neighbor Events with Bart Walker. Brought to you by the law offices of John Day and AmeriCare Pest Control.
This is a paid legal ad.
Hi, this is John Day of the law offices of John Day. I've lived and worked as a lawyer in Middle Tennessee for over 30 years, and to me, every single day has been an honor. That's why our firm is so involved with community programs like bicycle helmet giveaways and our Safe Ride Home program. At the law offices of John Day, we're not just looking to make donations. We want to make a difference in the community we hold so dear. And if you're ever injured, know that we are here for you too.
WGNS encourages you to shop local. Let's patronize our local family businesses. Over the decades, our local seniors have expanded their knowledge on various subjects. Adventures in Learning is coming up September the 11th, 18th, and 25th. This class is open to the entire community, and several churches are sponsoring it. One of the classes this year, Remembering 9/11. Adventures in Learning also covers Rutherford County history, or how to use your iPhone or iPad. All of this and more on 3 separate Mondays. That's at First United Methodist Church. In fact, this week is the last week to sign up. Don't miss that one. And speaking of signing up, it's time to sign up for Garden Basics. This class is taught by our local master gardeners. Garden Basics is taught at the Lane Agri Park September the 28th for 5 different Thursday evenings, and it's only $50 a person. Space is limited, so you need to sign up at the Lane Agri Park now. For more Good Neighbor events, check our website, WGNSradio.com.
Good neighbor weather. A heat advisory is in effect for the forecast area. Sunny skies here this afternoon, high in the upper 90s. Then for tonight, mostly clear, low near 74. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on News Radio WGNS. Currently, it's 77.
WGNS is powered by Middle Tennessee Electric. Seriously looking at solar power generation? MTE offers a free consultation with an energy expert and has an entire library of educational resources. To learn more, visit mte.com/prosolar.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and worldwide at WGNSradio.com.
Hi again, Bill Krause on the Roundtable as we go into another segment, and we're having a wonderful and highly informative visit with two representatives from the Volunteer Behavior Health, Susan Phillips, who is the Senior Director of Community Outreach, and Haley McPherson Bush, I'll get the Bush in, as the Director of the two community centers in Rutherford County in Murfreesboro and Smyrna. Just before the break, we were talking about the health needs and health priorities of senior citizens as they age. And you were just giving a wonderful description, Susan. Would you like to continue?
Oh, thank you, yes. One of the things that we encourage is for families or neighbors or church members to look after people who are in their older ages, because we know that sometimes they don't want to reach out to say, I'm struggling with this or I need this. And then also realizing that depression is prevalent with this age group. And so we also encourage knowledge about how to look for depression. You know, is the person... And it's kind of confusing because the natural part of aging, you know, sometimes people don't have the energy level that they used to. They don't feel like getting out as much as they used to. So with depression, we look at how have things changed in a person's life? You know, do they seem like they don't have the energy they used to? Does it seem like they're isolating, they're not getting out as much? Have they had a change in sleeping? Have they had a change in eating habits, eating more or less? We know that it's common for seniors to not need as much food as normal. And then lack of concentration, memory. And so some of those signs are certainly the natural process of someone getting older. So making sure that people are okay. And we do encourage people to ask the question, are you feeling depressed? Are you feeling down? And then also if someone seems to be like they are very down, ask the question, are you suicidal? Are you okay? Because seniors have a very high level of suicide. And we want to try to prevent that as much as possible.
Does that occur significantly when one of the spouses pass away and the other spouse is left alone?
Yes.
I imagine that would be an immediate area that you'd want to be observant.
Absolutely.
It's fascinating that you're talking about that, because medically we are keeping people alive a lot longer. And if you reach the age of 65, the odds of you living another 20, 25, 30 years is certainly in your favor versus as it was a few short decades ago. So the amount of time in the golden years has increased significantly. So the amount of time of care for people on their health care and mental health care in the golden years has become increased.
Yes, sir.
What's your most or significantly most serious cases? Are you basically in drug abuse? Are you basically in depression? What's your client base as a overall, if you were to summarize the different segments that you're dealing with?
I mean, honestly, we serve anybody and everybody. So, with all diagnoses from anxiety, adjustment disorders, things like that, all the way to severe substance use and schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. So, we really have a provider for everybody. We try to make it very inclusive. We don't, mental illness does not discriminate, and so we want to serve them all.
When you were in preschool teaching, did you observe even at that point certain milestones, signs on the part of even the little children?
Oh, absolutely. Even in a classroom of only 10, 4-year-olds, you can see who may be, excelling. You can see who may need a little bit extra help. You can see the ones who get very overstimulated very quickly. And then you have ones that are just calm, cool, and collected at all times. So those are very key points to observe, especially in the developmental age before they go into a kindergarten and, their elementary school. So you can definitely identify a lot of things like that in those years for sure.
This may be a more difficult question, and if you can't, don't, or not want to answer the question, I can certainly understand. But is there any study, is there any reference that certain mental health conditions are genetically transferred? Coming down from there's a question asked, was there any mental illness in your maternal or paternal sides? And you begin to think, because I do have to share, and I'm certainly not a physician, certainly not an expert in this, but I've seen cases even bipolar may have been a similar behavior in a parent, a grandparent, and you begin to wonder whether there's a transfer in any type of cell movement from one generation to another generation.
Absolutely. I think, one of the key points with mental illness is that there are some mental illnesses that are a chemical imbalance.
Okay.
So it's literally in the brain. There's a chemical imbalance in the brain, and there have been studies, especially with the severe and persistent mental illnesses. So like your bipolar disorder, your major depressive disorder, your schizophrenia or schizoaffectives. Those have traits to be genetic. Some of them, and some of them don't really emerge until a little bit later in childhood or early adulthood. But there are studies. I know that there's been like twin studies and adoptive studies and things like that show that there is some kind of component there, as well as with substance use as well.
Understand. You were talking earlier, Susan, that next month is Suicide Prevention Month. Would you like to comment on that a little further, and just the mere issue, not only for young people, but, and as you said earlier, senior citizens, how suicide is a major, major challenge for us?
Absolutely. So, in talking about this in general, 1 in 5 U.S. adults experience some level of mental health needs every year. That's a lot of people.
Yes, it is.
Is
this constant, or can this be erratic? That it can boil up at a particular time and then go back down to its norm?
It can. It can. We all, like we've talked about, we all have experiences that can.
You think about the pandemic and the number of individuals who were isolated and depressed and things like that. So you can definitely see a trend.
Has social media contributed to this? Would you say? Would you have any? Remember,
I think so.
We're not talking about precise fact or theory. We're talking about hypotheses, assumptions, and guesses at times. But, if the world has become so stressful, or somebody's on, I always call them the little toys, and tick-tocking and toxing and ticking, or whatever else we may do, is the stress level to such a point that time becomes a factor, keeping up becomes a factor, keeping abreast of things becomes a factor. Has our world, our lives become so complex that there are times that the rubber band called our brain snaps?
I would say yes. I mean, we can certainly spend our time going every which way. I mean, we can go, fill our calendars running all day long. At some point in time, I try to, for myself, and I encourage other people just to kind of take a beat, kind of take a step back and say, how am I spending my time? Is it, are the things that I'm doing, are they fulfilling? Am I doing first of all, what feeds me at least some? What helps me? And are there things that I'm involved in that I could probably step back from? And, have some time every day, even if it is 1 minute, 2 minutes, just to breathe, just to take a time, just to try to relax your thoughts, maybe do some breathing exercises. And I know that sounds cliche, but
it works.
But it really works because when you have a life experience that, whether it's your spouse, it's yourself, you have a health scare, something like that, typically that's when we take the time to say, okay, am I overdoing it? But, maybe if we took a little bit more time before we got to that point and say, how am I spending my life? One of the great, a video that I saw, it's called How Are You Spending Your Why? And that's a TED Talk on TED Talks. And it talks about what is your why of doing things? Why do you do things? It's like you asked us that earlier. It's like, what makes you tick? And when you think about what is my why of working as a social worker in a mental health field, I can tell you it fuels me because I get to help other people.
Correct.
And it's worth it to me. But I think if you're doing something and you can't think about why you're doing it, then maybe that's a time to reflect.
I'll give you a title for your book. The title is Get a Dog and Walk the Dog. Take a walk every day with the dog. And that may be, unless the dog pulls you to such a great degree, oh, this is exercise. This is not a mental relaxation.
Right, that's great.
I do have to ask the two of you from your experience, and it sounds like a wonderful experience. Talk about, if you can, some of the victories that you've seen along the way. We can diagnose the problem, we can say the seriousness of the problem, the critical seriousness of the problem, but what are some of the victories that you have dealt with men and women, children, seniors, that you saw a problem, you saw a diagnosis of an issue, but it was resolved?
One of the things that keeps me from burnout has been when I've seen someone first come in for services and it's like they are so depressed or they feel so weighted down, they can't even look us in the eye, or they don't feel wanted. They don't feel like anybody cares. And being able to, first of all, smile at that person and say, you know what, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad that you chose us to serve you today.
I have to interrupt for a quick second. I think that was one of the most serious impacts negatively of the pandemic, that having to wear masks.
Right.
Masked smiles.
Right.
And we were not smiling with each other. We weren't expressing with each other. Some people can smile with their eyes.
Right.
But not everybody.
Right.
We'll be right back after a quick break on WGNS, The Roundtable.
Hi, this is Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates. You might know me as the voice of the Blue Raiders, but I want to be your trusted advisor in real estate. Whether you're buying or selling, it's time to choose Chip. Do you have a growing family and need to upsize? Are you an empty nester now and need to downsize? Are you thinking of selling your current home but just worried you can't find something else? Well, it's time to choose Chip. I'm looking to be your trusted advisor in real estate. I'm Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates.
This is Dr. David Morris with Magnolia Medical Center. Do you suffer from peripheral neuropathy in your hands or feet, burning pain, balance problems, and decreased quality of life? Magnolia Medical Center can help.
Magnolia Medical Center in Murfreesboro. Online at magnoliamedicalcenters.com.
Here at Bud's Tire, we make buying Michelin tires simpler. I'm Allison Mitchell with Bud's Tire Pros. We offer a straightforward approach to service, including nationwide warranties with every purchase. Stop in today to see our full lineup of Michelin and BF Goodrich tires. For whatever you drive, Michelin and BF Goodrich have a tire to fit any need. Bud's Tire Pros, hassle-free, guaranteed. We're located on East Main Street, exactly 3 miles from the town square, 1 mile past Rutherford Boulevard. Visit us online at budstirepros.tn.com.
Hi, this is Bob Cornell, pastor of Covenant Church right here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. The answer that you've been looking for is found in Jesus and what he accomplished at the cross. You see, Jesus changes lives from the inside out. We would love for you to join us at Covenant Church, located at 1124 Brinkley Ave right here in Murfreesboro. We have services Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. and Tuesdays at 7 p.m. You can learn more about us at our Cornell Ministries YouTube channel. We want you to grow in Christ at Covenant Church.
In retirement, it's all about income. Your money, making money, and you're not spending down your principal. That's the way we do it at Retirement Income Solutions. So if you're spending down your principal or your money's not making money, keeping you ahead of inflation, check us out today at risolutions.net, risolutions.net. And make sure to join us Saturdays at noon and Sunday afternoons at 1 for Retirement Income Solutions Radio with Nathan Cox and Lindsay Cotter.
Talking with customers of Jeff's family-friendly restaurant on Hancock Street about why they keep coming back.
It is excellent. Very good food. It's kind of like eating at home. Real nice folks here. So good.
So much food at Jeff's, you'll have a hard time cleaning your plate.
Food is great. Oh, this is great food. Give you an ample amount.
They season it well and give you enough that you don't have to worry about going away hungry.
Come hungry to Jeff's family-friendly restaurant on Hancock Street.
This is great. I love it.
Really good. Glad I came today.
Jeff's family-friendly restaurant on Hancock Street.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and worldwide at WGNSradio.com.
One more time, third and final segment of the Roundtable this wonderful, little warm, but this wonderful Thursday morning on WGNS. We are enjoying and certainly appreciating the shared insights, experiences, and observations of two real pros. But I have to say, they're not just professional in their field, they also have a heart for the field. You know, you can have all the knowledge, you can have all the wisdom, but you need to have that heart for others. And that includes Susan Phillips, who is the Senior Director of Community Outreach at the Volunteer Behavior Health, and also Haley McPherson Bush, who is the Center Director of Volunteer Behavior Health, both in Murfreesboro and Smyrna. We were talking just before the break. Happiness. What does satisfaction to the two of you mean in your job? And you were beginning to make reference to people who have walked in extraordinarily depressed, they want eye contact, etc. But have you seen them walk out over a period of time with a smile and with a special gait in their walk?
That's what it is. That's what makes all of this work. When you have someone who comes, first of all, we don't want anyone to leave our building without receiving a little bit of hope. Mm-hmm. That's what we share, is hope in the darkness. And so I've had that happen. I've had someone come in who just was so depressed they couldn't even look me in the eye, and they've come back, you know, sometime later, and they would ask, "Do you remember me?" They would be smiling and have, you know, and have a pep in their step, and they said, "You're the one that I talked to when I first came in."
Wow.
And, you know, I was so depressed and I was so down, I didn't know how I was going to go on. But I'm here and I'm happy. My life is together as much as it can be. But I know that I can go on and my life is fulfilling.
What have been some of the causes, and I know we certainly have read a lot, heard a lot, seen a lot, but the causes of addiction that you have experienced. I had the opportunity when I was with HARC, the Homeless Coalition that was operational in Rutherford County several years ago, and talking to many of those who are homeless who have very serious mental illness and alcoholism, drug abuse, etc. What do you see in terms of causes? Does everybody have their own story of what causes the abuse?
I think everyone has their own story for sure, but you know, it's very prevalent to have, you know, a co-occurring disorder. So co-occurring disorder is a substance use disorder along with a mental health issue.
Does one cause the other, or one creates the other, or do they go hand in hand?
They go hand in hand. You know, you could have a very traumatic experience, you know, when you were growing up or something like that, and you know, you just want the pain to go away, and instead of, you know, being able to work through that, or you don't want to deal with it anymore, people turn to substances sometimes to kind of numb themselves, and same with alcoholism, you know, things like that. So I think it's important to really identify the core issue to the substance abuse, but everyone's story is different. No two stories are the same, and so you really have to individualize the way you look at, you know, some of these cases.
You know, one of the norms I found when I was dealing with the homeless, there are always people say, well, just build housing for the homeless. Well, there are two types of homeless. One type of homeless is very solvable. It's an urgent emergency situation. They lost the job, they lost the house, they want to get back. But the other person does have mental illness, and the one common conversation that I always heard from the homeless in Rutherford County, we don't want to be confined within four walls. And if you built them a condo, you built them a little house, tiny house, you built them an apartment, they did not want to be confined by four walls, and the whole confinement was an issue that I don't think is solvable. So you build a campground and allow them to go to a campground as they would at a state national park. In dealing with the drug abuse, and let's talk basically about young people, can you reach young people easier, more difficult, or again, case by case in terms of addressing drug abuse?
We do have, like I said, we do have several programs in the school system to talk to people about, you know, not using drugs. And I know that that's another cliche that people are like, it doesn't help if you talk to them. But I kind of disagree with that. I think, you know, one of the things we encourage is that parents start talking to children about drugs and alcohol at a very early age. You know, we talk about stranger danger, things like that. Talk about that and talk about the effects of it, because we know that regardless of what kind of home life a person has, they're going to be confronted with that. And my rule of thumb is, I like to tell parents, your children can hear about this from you first, and, you know, the consequences of it, things that can happen, or they can hear it for the first time from their peers, because they're going to hear it from their peers. And when they hear it from a peer, they're going to have a 1 to 2 second decision to make about, am I going to do this? Am I not? So at least if a parent has been broaching these conversations, being open about hearing about it, talking about it, that child has, or adolescent, they've already got something in their mind as a go-to. So we say, talk about it, they listen. That's the slogan.
Excellent. One of the core discussions of therapy, and I want you to talk about the service of your organization on therapy, it isn't just a third independent person. A good number of people, whether they're a preteen, a teenager, a young adult, a senior citizen, or anybody in between, may have a network system, support system of loved ones, parents, siblings, children, grandparents, but there are times that an individual will not open up to a loved one because they love them, if that may be, and they don't want to burden them, and they don't want to trouble them, and they don't want to be in the eyes of the person they're talking to as there may be something wrong because they've always been idealized as being the perfect child or the perfect husband or what have you. So tell me the role of a therapist from your organization's perspective of not only fitting into that role, but taking the primary responsibility.
I always, when I was doing case management, I would have clients come in and they, I would go through my assessments and, ask them the basic questions that we have to go through and things like that. And, a lot of times they do say that they feel like a burden and they don't want to waste anybody's time, or they don't want to take away time that could be given to somebody else. And the one thing that I always say is, your life is worth my time.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that I kind of model my whole purpose and my whole career around, is everybody's life is worth it.
Is a priority in your world too, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
Give the phone numbers so that if people want to call for information that you may have, both at Murfreesboro and at Smyrna.
So our intake line, our first time appointment line, that number is 1-877-567-6051.
One more time.
1-877-567-6051.
And can they go online and see something about the volunteer behavior health?
Absolutely. So that website is www.vbhcs.org.
Finally, how do we minimize, I don't believe we ever can eliminate anything, but how do we minimize the stigma of mental health?
Talk about it more.
And talk about it as an illness, not
Normalize
a curse.
it. Exactly. We need to normalize it because every single person on this planet has experienced some sort of symptom from mental health, whether it's sadness, whether it's anger, whether it's, not saying you have a mental illness, but some sort of symptom that is related to something.
I like to use the analogy, if somebody has cancer, diabetes, heart problem, and so forth, people don't have it as a stigma. They just say, I'm so sorry, what can we do to help? But if somebody has mental illness and so forth, well, wow, stay away, go away, you're a danger, etc. What would be some final words that you would share, bringing to our audience about, are you optimistic about the future, pessimistic, or just pretty much accepting the future?
I'm very optimistic because having opportunities like this gives us an opportunity to talk about what mental health is and what it isn't. I think the more conversations we can have to, like Haley said, normalize it, the better. So talking about it with our kiddos, talking about it with our teens, talking about it with our parents, talking about it in our churches. The Department of Mental Health has a whole faith-based initiative to get churches involved in what we call recovery ministry, because we've got people of all walks of life who experience this. And just be open, having people that are willing to have a conversation with someone who is struggling, just being kind to one another. You never know what someone is walking through. Smile at people. And I know that sounds
without a mask.
Just without a mask.
Yes.
I mean, just be kind, and like Haley said, just be very open. And I think if we can foster some of those things in our community, in our everyday walk of life, that's one of the best starts that we can have.
And if you can even use nomenclature, and I guess I'm a great one for using words that have a positive, I would love to see an emphasis on brain health. Brain wellness.
Perfect.
Let's call it
That's
brain
great.
wellness.
That's
and
great.
What steps can people take for brain wellness? It's the same we have preventive medicine for A, B, C, D, and physical health. What's our brain wellness that we're working for? We can diagnose all day long, but what's the brain? What's the goal? What's the brain wellness? What would be some of the tips you might say of how to have a good, healthy, active brain?
I would say take care of yourself, self-care, do things that you enjoy. Spend time away from your stressors and be able to manage your stress. And stress causes a lot on the brain. So
have a sense of humor too.
Yes.
Laugh.
Yes.
Laugh. Good
Yes.
laugh.
Absolutely.
Not laugh at people. Laugh with people.
Yes. Yes. And they say a smile is contagious. So, the more you smile at people and be kind, the more that you're going to receive that as well.
True.
And make it a genuine smile.
Yes.
And a good word. How often, and I will say this to students continually, you're walking down a hallway at Motlow, and do you say hi to people as they're coming toward you? Or do you have your face to the ground and you don't want eye contact? You don't want to look like there's another human being walking toward you. Be outreach. Be a good person that is friendly and friendly that cares about others. We want to thank the two of you. You have been certainly wonderful. Susan Phillips, who's the Senior Director of Community Outreach, and Haley McPherson Bush, who is the Center Director for both the Murfreesboro and Smyrna outpatient locations. We hope you come back and visit with us in the future, and the very best wishes. And on behalf of the world, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you
It's
so
a pleasure
much.
to serve.